Morning, kiddos. Guess who's back? Guess who's back? Back again. Tyke is back. Get that reaction thing off so I can do this. Tell a friend. La da 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 da. Okay. Today, kiddos, we're going to work on intensive and reflexive pronouns. Again, this has been another scourge of your existence when we have messed with the warm ups. You got a lot of you are struggling with intensive pronouns. Intensive and reflexive pronouns always end in self or selves. Always. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. That's one of those immutable laws of English. And then um, the difference between intensive and reflexive is that intensive, if we leave it out of the sentence is still grammatically correct. With a reflexive pronoun, um, if we left them out, the sentence doesn't make sense. A lot of times with intensive pronouns, but not always, they're usually right after um, the word that they explain, they highlight, where reflexive pronouns can be throughout, but not always, not always, not always. So, for the first part, for part A on side 55, what we're going to do, I'm going to have to re-record a video. I'll add something to it. I forgot to do one more part to that possessive video I just recorded. I'll add something to it in a second after I do this video. So all you're going to do is you're going to underline the intensive or reflexive pronouns in the sentence. So let's do number one together. And we'll go to highlight. When I feel discouraged, I tell myself the story of the ugly duckling. So we look at the words that end in self or selves. Well, that's easy. Well, it just doesn't highlight the way I want. Still have Lady Gaga paparazzi stuck in my head. Okay, myself. So there is one and number one, one and number two, one and number three, one and number four, one and number five, one and number six, one and number seven. So these will each be worth half a point. So this will be worth 3.5 points the first part. Then on part B, you're going to decide which pronoun best completes the sentence and then underline which one does. Circle, doesn't kill me if you do either. Just make sure we're either circling or underlining, please. The emperor, him or himself, was a vain man. The best thing to do with this is to read each sentence with the pronouns, and that'll give you the answer. So the emperor, him, was a vain man, or the emperor himself was a vain man? Well, obviously, it sure sounds like himself. So underline or circle that, please. There is only one per sentence, so this will be worth 2.5 points. So far, this is a 6-point assignment. Then I don't know why it's crooked, but it is. So for part A on 56, what you're going to do is you're going to decide whether it's intensive or reflexive. Now, the big one, that's all you got to do is here on the line, write R or I for intensive or reflexive. Use the capitals, please. Capital R, capital I. So let's do number one together. Yeah, let's do number one and number two together. People have been telling themselves the story of Snow White for centuries. So let's take out themselves. People have been telling the story of Snow White for centuries. See, it looks like we can take out that word and the sentence still grammatically makes sense because we have people as our subject, have been telling as our predicate, have been telling what the story is our direct object. Of Snow White and for centuries is prepositional phrases. So this is perfect. So what we would do there is just put I. Makes absolute sense. Actually, let's go to number three instead of number two, because I want to do one intensive, one reflexive to show you the difference. The queen talked herself into getting rid of Snow White. So take the word herself out and say the queen talked into getting rid of Snow White. Doesn't make any sense, does it? Even though we have a subject, queen, we have a verb, we have a predicate, talk. The queen talked into getting rid of Snow White. That doesn't make sense. We need the word herself in there for this to grammatically make sense. So that's going to be an R for reflexive. I can't offhand. I guess I'll try for you. So there's 11 of these. 1, 2, 3. There's 5 intensive pronouns, so there'll be 6 reflexive pronouns. So that'll be worth 5.5 points. So there's 10.5 points so far. On this one, you're going to decide which pronoun best completes the sentence and then tell me, is it intensive or reflexive? So let's do number 1 together. The students blank will make their views known. So since we know it's students, it's more than one student. So it wouldn't be himself or herself. It would have to be, let's text box it. It'd have to be themselves. The students themselves. And because it's students, it has to be selves, not self. Now, if you write it incorrectly, I am going to have these marked off. So make sure you're putting self or selves. Make sure you're using the correct one. If you're not sure, go back up to page 55 and look at this list. This list is going to give you the words. Then the students will make their views known. You see how we can take out themselves and it's correct? So put an I for intensive. So obviously putting the correct intensive pronoun, the correct reflexive or intensive pronoun will be 1 point. And then or putting the I or the R will be worth 1 point. Looks like, let me reread. There's 3 of each. There's 3 intensive, 3 reflexive. Then finally on the last page, you're going to go through and you're going to cross out all of these intensive and reflexive pronouns. Then above them, tell me if they're used correctly or incorrectly. Now, if they're used correctly, leave them. If they're used incorrectly, cross them out and write them correctly. And that's all you're going to get scored for. So let's read real quick the first 2 sentences. 3 pig brothers were growing up fast. They told themselves that it was time to go out on their own. So we see their selves. Their selves is not a correct intensive pronoun. So what we're going to do is we're going to mark it because it's incorrect. And then above it, I want you guys to write correctly what it is, which is themselves. So that's what you're going to do there. See, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I see 4 incorrect in this sentence. So you will get points for highlighting the 4 that are correctly, and then you'll get points for let me make sure I got my count right real quick. Yeah, plus the ones we did. So this will be worth 4 points, half a point for underlining the ones that are incorrect, and half a point for writing above how to write them correctly. Please use your best handwriting possible. You're going to make me do math, aren't you? I think it was 10 and a half. I think this one's 20 and a half. So this is what we'll do on Tuesday, April 1st. If you have any questions, Pirates, please talk to me in class. Thank you very much and have a super sparkly day.